Something strange happened in Europe in 2009, something so shocking that it nearly collapsed the world's most ambitious economic project. A small country representing just 2% of the European economy suddenly became the epicenter of a crisis that threatened to bring down the entire euro. Investors panicked, governments scrambled, and ordinary citizens woke up to a nightmare they never saw coming. But here's the real mystery. Greece didn't collapse overnight. The danger had been growing quietly, hidden behind optimistic promises, political games, and numbers that didn't tell the truth. The world simply didn't notice until it was too late. To understand how all of this unfolded, we need to go back to the early years of the euro, when the European Union believed that a shared currency would unite nations, strengthen economies, and eliminate the risks of old-fashioned financial crises. But joining the euro required strict rules, low deficits, low debt, stable budgets. Greece claimed it met the requirements. In reality, the country's finances were already strained. Tax collection was weak, public spending was high, and both major political parties treated government money like a tool for winning the next election. Still, Europe let Greece in, and the markets believed that meant everything was safe. Once inside the euro, Greece suddenly had access to something it never had before: extremely cheap borrowing. Investors assumed that all Eurozone countries were equally trustworthy, so they lent money to Greece at almost the same interest rates as Germany. With money now flowing easily, Greek politicians increased spending even further. Instead of reforming the system, they expanded it. More public jobs, more pensions, more projects, more political rewards. Debt kept rising, but the markets didn't care. They trusted the euro more than they understood the numbers underneath. Then came the global financial crisis of 2008. Suddenly, every country was re-examined under a harsh, unforgiving light. Investors started asking questions. And when Greece elected a new government in 2009, the truth finally came out. The deficit Greece had reported wasn't 6% of GDP. It was more than double that, one of the largest in Europe. In a single announcement, trust evaporated. International markets realized they had been lending huge sums of money to a country based on incomplete, manipulated, or misunderstood data. Fear replaced confidence almost instantly. Interest rates on Greek bonds skyrocketed. The higher they rose, the harder it became for Greece to borrow. And without borrowing, the government couldn't pay existing debts. Greece was now trapped in a vicious spiral: shrinking trust, rising interest rates, and collapsing finances. By early 2010, the country was on the brink of default, a moment that could trigger a domino effect through Europe's fragile financial system. Europe had a choice. It could let Greece collapse, which might destroy the entire Eurozone, or it could step in. So together with the IMF, Europe offered a massive rescue package worth hundreds of billions of euros. But there was a catch. Greece had to accept strict austerity. Budgets would be cut, salaries lowered, pensions reduced, taxes raised, public services downsized. The goal was to restore confidence. The reality was far harsher. As austerity took hold, the Greek economy didn't stabilize, it shrank. Businesses closed. Jobs disappeared. Unemployment soared to record levels. The deeper the cuts, the deeper the recession. And because GDP was falling, the debt seemed even bigger, creating a paradox. Greece was cutting everything, yet the crisis was getting worse. By 2011 and 2012, Greece reached a breaking point. Protests filled the streets. Parliament buildings were surrounded by angry citizens. Families struggled to afford basic necessities. Youth unemployment passed 50%. Hospitals ran short on supplies. A modern European country was living through an economic collapse similar to the Great Depression. Europe responded with more bailouts, but each came with tougher conditions. Greece found itself trapped in a loop where it couldn't say no, but every time it said yes, its economy weakened even more. Meanwhile, most of the bailout money didn't go to the people, it went to repay European banks holding Greek debt. Greeks felt punished. Europeans felt misled. Trust eroded on all sides. Finally, Europe agreed to something it had resisted for years: a massive restructuring of Greek debt. Private investors were forced to take losses, one of the largest sovereign write-downs in history. But even this couldn't immediately revive the economy. Years of austerity and political conflict had left the country exhausted. Growth remained weak. Social tensions grew. Many young professionals left the country permanently, creating a brain drain that still affects Greece today. Then came 2015. A new Greek government rode a wave of anger into power, promising to challenge Europe and end austerity. For a moment, it seemed like Greece might chart a different path. Instead, the confrontation pushed the country into its most dangerous moment yet. Banks shut down. Capital controls limited how much people could withdraw from ATMs. The possibility of Greece leaving the euro, something once unthinkable, became frighteningly real. In a dramatic referendum, the Greek people rejected the new bailout terms. But within days, facing complete collapse, the government reversed course and accepted an even stricter agreement. The message was clear. Greece no longer had economic sovereignty. Without control over its currency, and without the trust of financial markets, it had almost no leverage. Slowly, painfully, the Greek economy began to stabilize in the late 2010s. Tourism recovered. Exports grew. Some reforms finally took hold. But the damage was long-lasting. A quarter of the country's GDP had vanished. Hundreds of thousands had emigrated. Debt remained among the highest in the world. Greece survived, but not without deep scars. Yet the real lesson of the Greek crisis isn't just about Greece. It's about the global financial system and the hidden dangers that modern economies carry. Because Greece's story reveals something uncomfortable. Debt can grow silently for years without consequences until a single shock exposes everything. And once confidence breaks, even nations with powerful allies can fall to their knees. Today, the same pattern appears around the world. Italy's public debt is now more than 1.5 times the size of its economy. Japan's debt is more than twice its GDP. The United States holds the largest national debt ever recorded. Emerging markets like Egypt, Argentina, and Pakistan face severe financial stress. Everywhere, governments are borrowing, spending, and hoping that growth will eventually catch up. But hope is not a strategy, and Greece proves that even developed countries can run out of time. The crisis also reveals how fragile trust is. Greece didn't collapse because the numbers were bad. It collapsed because people stopped believing the numbers. Financial systems run on confidence. Without it, even the strongest foundations can crumble. So what can we learn from Greece? First, debt is dangerous when it grows faster than the economy supporting it. Whether it's a household, a company, or a country, borrowing without a plan always ends the same way. Second, transparency matters. When governments manipulate or hide financial data, the eventual punishment is far worse than the temporary political reward. And third, crises don't stay contained. Greece's collapse threatened the entire Eurozone and nearly reshaped global history. As the world faces rising debt, slowing growth, and increasing uncertainty, the Greek crisis stands as a warning from the recent past, a reminder that economic stability is fragile, that trust is priceless, and that ignoring risks is the fastest way to create a disaster. If you found this story insightful and want more deep dives into the hidden history behind global financial events, make sure to like this video, subscribe to FinStory, and turn on notifications. The next crisis may already be forming, and understanding the past is the best way to understand the future.